So without further ado, we've got Mitch Weiss to get us going. All right, Mitch.
Thanks, Dustin. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I wanted to start actually by inviting you to transport yourself in time, not actually, but in place. This very room where you're sitting now, 4 weeks ago, filled more than is now to capacity with the newly arrived class of 2025, the Harvard Business School first-year students, all 938 of them, here in Klarman Hall at Harvard Business School. The dean, of course, Srikant Datar, had the central role, but afterwards, as chair of the first-year program here at Harvard Business School, I had a chance to address them as well. And in doing so, I invited them to go back further in time than I've just invited you. Actually, almost 40 years back, all the way to 1984, and the arrival of the personal computer here at Harvard Business School, and sort of broadly speaking, in the world. Now note, this arrival was met with substantial anxiety, a case study in anxiety was the headline, very punny here at Harvard Business School, right? And if we're being fair, reasonable anxiety about, gosh, what will this technology mean for teaching and learning? What will it mean for me? Will I be capable of doing either of those two things at all and relative to my peers? A kind of anxiety you might be feeling even still now as teachers, educators, others, the kind of anxiety that got you to cross the river on a Friday morning, right, and come here. But note, the anxiety was met with innovation. The dean then of the Harvard Business School saying, actually, we've required the use of the personal computer for all of our entering students. Because we've been doing experimentation, we know we can do innovation, we believe that this can lift up still the mission of the Harvard Business School. My favorite part of these archives, we asked our archivists to look into this, my favorite part is this quote here. The Harvard Business School approach to how to use a computer: here's a computer, here's a case, see you in the morning. Let me take those three things. Here's a case. Still in this era, I told the first-year students sitting where you are now, yes, still, the case method still lives. Here's a computer. Well, we didn't give them computers. They have those. But we did this. We required that all 938 first years in the Harvard Business School class use generative AI in their work here at school. And then what we did was paid for it for them for 2 months. Every single one of them GPT+, so they'd have access to GPT-4 and advanced data analysis. Okay? Here's your AI. But not just see you in the morning, we also have been offering them trainings, of course, and teaching so that they might become more proficient in using these tools over time. We hosted an optional training 2 days after this orientation for them here at Harvard Business School, an optional training for the first year students, 450 of them, right? Almost half the class showed up. So by way of welcoming you fulsomely, wholeheartedly here to the Harvard Business School, by way of giving you some little peek at what we're doing here at Harvard Business School now, by way of violating every rule I know, every bone in my body that says never do a live technology demo, by way maybe of lifting up even some of the skill set, some of it in this room for those of us that haven't been using the tools very much, I am going to show you some of what we did with them that day. Now, I want to acknowledge a couple things up front before we dive in. First of all, these are actually rather introductory. There are many more intricate things you can do. I'm sure you'll hear from some from Ethan and others later. But if you want to get everybody moving, maybe you start somewhere like, I'm going to start us here. If you want to get everybody warmed up in a room like this, it's not a bad place to start. Some of this may not work, and not just because it's a live demo, because that's, of course, the nature of these tools these days, and so we may see some of that. Okay, so a peek inside this training we did for the Harvard Business School students just after their arrival here at HBS. It starts actually with a joke. So this is a joke that Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, a founder of OpenAI, starts the book he wrote last spring, impromptu, he wrote with GPT-4. He starts the book with a joke. How many restaurant inspectors does it take to change a light bulb? And he writes that when it gave him this answer, he was convinced that these tools are going to be creative and innovative and illuminating. Of course, that's not a question that's on the mind very much of first-year students or second years for that matter, or anybody else here at the Harvard Business School, but this one is closer to it, right? How many AIs would it take to help start and run a global restaurant chain? You can imagine thinking about that, but even that question isn't the most important one facing our students these days. Of course, none of ours. What it means for them personally, looming large in their mind. This is not a question that Reid Hoffman put to the AI. It's a question I did. Do you want to know the answer? OK, so this is one answer. They like this one the best. It had a ring of truth indeed. Of course, though, this is fun and games, but not the important question. This is. The mission of the Harvard Business School is to educate leaders who will make a difference in the world. And the question I and Sadal and Bharat and other colleagues here are putting to them is, to what extent will these tools help you do that? You must spend the next 2 years helping figure the answer to that question out. Now, of course, we move from reminding them why we're doing any of this at all to how they might get started. Proficiency is the first step. Right? Before you know how these things should or shouldn't be used in business and leadership or all the other disciplines that you're involved in teaching and learning, you need to know how they could and couldn't be used. Proficiency is the first step. Could and could before should and shouldn't. And so we start them down the road. Again, I said pretty introductory on could and couldn't. And so at some hazard, I'm going to show you some of the things we did with them. I'm going to use GPT Plus here. Just by the way, I do have advanced data analysis running here. We're going to use it in a minute. But I'm going to start actually rather more simply. I'm going to start with a case that I teach in my course on public entrepreneurship. I'm not going to put the case into this tool. And I won't get into why that is right now, but suffice to say, if I did, I would be carted out of the room. I'm not going to put the case in the tool, but I'm going to tell ChatGPT and all of you a little bit about this case. So, and I'm going to pretend I am a business school student. Tomorrow, we are having a discussion on the case Mark 43. We all learn by the case method. Pardon all the typos, I'm just going to leave them here. The company is a startup. It is building technology to help with police records management. It is called Police RMS. The case finds them having just rolled out their first product with their first customer, the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. And then they hear there will be the opportunity to bid on a contract from the LA Police Department. And the question of the case is, should they bid on the LA RFP? Now, I know tomorrow I'm going to be asked, what makes a good first customer? I know this because the professor put it in as an assignment question. I think I want to say that what makes a good first customer is the willingness to experiment, an ability to fail, and an interest in giving feedback. Now, by the way, when I'm doing this with the students for the very first time, I'm also signaling to them that I know, that you know, that I know, that you know, you can just ask these tools for the answers to the case. But we're going to maybe also use them for something else instead. So I'm going to say, can you ask me 3 questions that will push my thinking on these fronts? Okay. And then we told the students, I'm telling you, another thing to do is to say thank you. That's not the key thing. It might turn out to be. Thank you. Can you help me anticipate counter arguments? Can you point out 3 to the 3 points I have made? You can imagine that a student invested and engaged in their own education will now walk into a class a little more reflective, a little more prepared, a little more ready to push their classmates past the surface. We won't delve deeper into any of these right now. I want to show you a few of the other things that we showed them. For example, what if we wanted the students to actually see where they could glean more information from? What if now I'm using Bing, Microsoft's product, and Bing's sidebar, which can, among other things, actually engage with the content in your browser window, either a website or a PDF, right? So I've accessed now the actual RFP, which is a PDF I had on my computer, and I can say, can you summarize, please, the first 10 pages of the document in the window? I don't know if this will work. It's been sitting here a while. Happens on and off. You actually do have that ability. Let's see. We'll try. Don't give up. We'll try one more time. I told you, I promised you, it might not always work. And in fact, as Ethan and I were talking before, and he might say some of this later, I won't steal his thunder, one of the things we can teach students is when things don't work, don't give up right away. I've just uploaded the file again. A much better sign. It's going to tell me it's too long. This is a commentary both on what GPT will do for these days and also the length of government RFPs, obviously. Oh, no. We'll move on. If this doesn't work, we'll be left to not bid. The answer will have to be we don't bid in the LA RFP, obviously. Okay. So this is actually really lovely. So it has this ability, and so you'll work to figure out how you can make it use its ability. I want to show you a few other things, so I won't stick with it. The other thing we might ask this technology to do is help us with some math. So I'm going to say, look, one of the issues for the company is if they bid and win on the contract, they can skip a second round of venture capital funding. I want to practice calculating the implications of that, of raising money. Can you tell me this? If the founders owned, after the first Series A investment, 75% of the firm, and the Series A investors owned 25%. And then there was a Series B investment of $10 million on a $100 million pre-money valuation. How much of the company will the founders own after the Series B in percentage terms? This might also not work, although I'm optimistic it will. 2 strikes in a row would be unfun. if we turn off advanced data analysis, it would actually just do it. Any quick startup equity math people can tell me if this is the right answer? Ethan can. It is. Okay, so this is the right answer. The founders own 68.2% afterwards. I'll just show you one other way we could have done this as well, which is we could actually, because we're using GPT Plus and advanced data analysis, upload a blank cap table. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is blank as to the answer I need. It shows just what I put in. Okay? But this time I'm going to ask it, can you use the file I just uploaded and fill in the answer to the question of what the founders will own after the Series B? Okay, it's given me a new file. Let's see what it says. 68% in my spreadsheet. Okay? So we can use these also to help us understand the numbers we're trying to study in class. Let me show you a quick few other things, and then we'll move on with the rest of the program. One thing you might think students can do is not just prepare for class, but of course reflect after class. So what if, for example, they've struggled with a concept? And I'm just going to poke around a couple of the other apps here just to show you them. So we're in Claude now here from Anthropic, and I'm going to say, I'm a student in business school. I am struggling with the distinction between network effects and virality. By the way, in this police software case, there's some question about whether or not if they were in lots of police districts, they'd be able to generate any network effects. It'll come up in class. It won't be the main part of class. Maybe a student still leaves confused. Can you please define both and give me examples of both? Anyone want to weigh in on how the definitions are, and are the examples right? Yeah, Bharat says yes. Thumbs up. Okay. Phew. Okay. So what if a student does understand the difference but wants to say, apply this in the area of work that we're interested in? Can you give me, please, 3 examples, but in the energy industry? So they can make this real and land home with them. So a good example of virality in an energy industry, referral programs for solar panel projects and all the rest. What if English isn't my first language, and I want some examples of, can you, now we're in Google's Bard, please give me 3 examples of network effects in real companies in France, and please do this in French. Okay, Bharat, how did you do this time? Okay, so some clarification about concepts in class and applying them to the things they care about, the things they're interested in, the places they come from. What about also actually testing their knowledge? Okay, so now I would like your help testing my knowledge of these 2 concepts. Please ask me 3 questions, 1 at a time. Please start easy and get more difficult. Please don't give me the answer, and even I ask. So I asked you 1 at a time. No rush, it says. Well, there's a lot of people watching me. I feel rushed. Okay, so what concept refers to the phenomenon where the value of a product or service increases the more as people use it? Which is it? Network effects. Okay. Let's see, network effects. Okay, a harder one. Social media platforms often leverage which concept to rapidly gain new users through peer sharing influence? This doesn't seem harder. Okay, this is harder. How can network effects create a competitive advantage for platforms like Uber or Lyft over traditional taxi services? Any answers? Anyone? I know this is not a business school crowd per se. Okay. How do fourth graders learn?
More drivers and more opportunity to find good rides.
Okay. More drivers create more opportunities to find good rides. And how does that create a competitive advantage? Well, we'll see if it likes our answer. Okay. Yay, okay. All right. So we could go on and on, we won't. You could actually ask it to quiz you. I want to show you one last thing before we finish, which is you could also at the end of the day say, look, I'm a business school student. Every day, I will come here and write down something I learned that I want to remember for the rest of my life. Why not? Can you please ask me 2 questions about that thing that will push my reflection deeper? Today, the thing I learned that I want to remember forever is. Has anybody learned anything yet this morning? They want to remember forever? Anyone learn anything at all? French. Okay. Okay, so we're going to put in French is important to know. Okay. So it's asked us to deepen our reflection. Okay. If we could just pop the slides back up, I want to wrap us up. There's obviously much more you could do, and as I said, this is super introductory and super focused on learning essentially here. But it's the beginning of a building of a set of skills that could lead them, we hope, in many, many other places. We told them that you should use these tools to elevate and not undermine the value of your discussions here and others. We believe deeply you can use these tools to actually elevate our learning here at Harvard Business School and writ large in the world. We told them that practice is illuminating, as I told you, that it's a precondition actually for deciding how these things should and shouldn't be used in the world and how you might or might not use them to lead. You have to know how you could or couldn't. As we even discuss and debate here today how these things should or shouldn't be used in teaching and learning, we all have to know personally, by putting fingers on keys, how they could or couldn't. In practicing, we invited them to think like case method discussants, to consider that often how well these tools do is a reflection on you. As good teachers, all of us know that when our students don't quite live up to our expectations, given a question we asked, it may not be because of them. It may be because of us. We might need to reframe the question, make it sharper, clearer, come at it from a different angle. Case method teachers also love to push students, and students love to push each other, so do that here. When it doesn't do the job, ask it to do better. If you're not sure why it's doing what it's doing, ask it to explain. Invite it to take perspectives from certain people as it does. Request that it organize its response, tell it explicitly to break things up, ask it for answers in parts. As I said, reframe your question. And just one last thing on questions. We have here at the Harvard Business School what in many ways we regard as canon. The book Education for Judgment. At the end of the day, that is what we're doing here at HBS. Educating future leaders to exercise the judgment, still using this. And inside this book, they quote from folks you all may know. And what do they say? Questions, questions, questions. If we can teach our students how to ask important and relevant questions, we can teach them to learn. my own experience, still early still on these tools, is that in fact we have much to do as teachers, as educators. And if we can still ask our students to ask questions and ask questions of these tools, we can teach them to learn, and isn't that what we're here to do? Okay, thank you very much.